Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. It is Monday the 26th of February 2024. Thank you so much for choosing to join us this morning for half an hour and in the chat. And everyone's saying good morning over there. Thank you very much. So today we're going to be talking about the Tory party, as always, but we're going to be particularly focusing on the damage that's been that is being done to the Tory party by its own internal machinations, this problem that they have, that they want to attract racist voters because they know that's all they've got left, while at the same time they are trying to show that they're not racist. So you have weird things going on, like we had Rishi Sunak this morning on breakfast television, not condemning what Lee Anderson said last week about Islamic people running London. Yeah, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. That's usually about Jewish people, but today it's going to be about Muslim people. There's some other people. They run London through Sadiq Khan. He just does what he's told by the Islamists. They're out to get everyone. You're not really supposed to say stuff like that because, first of all, it's not true. Secondly, it's racist. It's a bit racist there. Lee Anderson. Found out this morning you should never write the word Google Lee Anderson into Google without turning on Safe Search first. First thing in the morning. There's a famous sex tape. I completely forgot. Of Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson. And Lee Anderson's name just happens to be a portmanteau of the two. Anyway, sorry. So you had this weird thing where Rishi Sunak went on a bunch of radio stations this morning in Yorkshire, and he was asked about Lee Anderson, who's been suspended from the Tory party. He's had the withdrawn for doing a racism. However, Rishi Sunak didn't really make a big thing about the fact he didn't apologise for what his former minister, former deputy chairman of the Tory party until a few weeks ago, actually said his problem seemed to be that he didn't apologise for what he said. And this is coming hot on the heels of not only Kemi Badenoch just lying her face off, talking about the post office, the fact that the chairman of the post office, the former chairman of the post office, claims that he was told to slow down the compensation to the sub-postmasters. And then you've also got the fact that she said a few in Parliament, she misled Parliament recently, saying that she'd met with a number of LGBT groups. She hadn't. She hasn't met with any. This is pulled apart by Labour MP Ben Bradshaw, who pulled her up on it and said, you've met with Sex Matters and some other group, probably based out of Tufton Street, who have literally no gay people in the group, and they just exist to be transphobic. There's transphobic groups. Transphobic. That's all it is. And she goes, oh yeah, I met with these groups, which is a bit like saying, I met with some Jewish groups to talk about anti-Semitism, but you actually met with Nazis. That's the equivalent of how much she lied. And then you've got Suella Braverman, who wrote an op-ed in the Telegraph last Friday, which was arguably even more racist than what Neanderthal said last week on GB News. But nothing's happened to her. She's not been reprimanded even, I don't even think. Like, nothing's been said. And it's like, how could she get away with doing this? And at the same time, you've got Liz Truss, the idiot's idea of an idiot, and the clever person's idea of an idiot, everyone's idea of an idiot, Liz Truss. Hi, morning. Thank you very much, Sarah, in the super chat there, for £2 super chat. Thank you very much. Cheers. Saying, morning, Graham. Morning, Sarah. Super chats are open. Good week to you all. Anyway, you had this unedifying spectacle of Liz Truss, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But according to a new book cover, 10 Years to Save the West, just Great Britain, not Northern Ireland. Who knew? I think you have to be Prime Minister for so many days before you actually can be called the Prime Minister of Northern Ireland, as well as Great Britain, which is the island that we're on. It's not the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom includes Northern Ireland. Yeah. Anyway, so she was standing on this platform that had been introduced by a guy standing up and saying that we need to destroy democracy. Literally what he stood up and said, we need to destroy democracy. And you're watching the video of it going, okay, is he making a metaphor here? Is he saying that democracy is in trouble and that only we can save it? No. Just destroy democracy. That's it. That's all we want to do. We just want to destroy it. Make it dead. Thank you very much to One Angry Pagan for the £2 super chat there. That is very generous and kind of you. Tories arguing about how to be racists. Good point, mate. Very good point. So Liz Truss comes out on stage, and she's like the guy at the end of the Scooby-Doo cartoon going, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids. And it's literally, she stood up and she said, the problem was all the woke trans people stopped me from this amazing, wonderful thing that would have happened had I been allowed to continue destroying the British economy. Her book's called 10 Years to Save the West. It only took her 44 days to destroy the British economy. And she's standing there going, oh, it's all everyone else's fault. It's the fault of the woke. And then she starts accusing like institutions of being woke, including the IMF. What? The IMF, which is like set up to stop countries going bankrupt because that's bad for the world economy. Yeah, those woke economists at the IMF. Oof, yeah. And she's on a platform like in a conference, the CPAC conference with the likes of Steve Bannon, the guy who said you should wear accusations of racism like a badge of pride. That's what he said. That's what he said. And she's happy to be photographed alongside him, and also Nigel Farage, the famous racist, bigoted, scumbag, posh, privately educated, I say city banker, but he wasn't really a city banker. He was one of the junior sort of city bankers. I think he just polished the shoes of the actual bankers. Guy who's never had a proper job in his life. He's never had to work a day in his life. He got a job as an MEP, never turned up, except when it was to do one of his publicity stunts. He was on the British fisheries. He was on the British Fisheries Committee in the European Parliament, never turned up for a meeting. Just absolute all-round scumbag. Posed in front of an image of brown people queuing up, saying Britain's full. You know, that this whole racist idea that people are coming over from other countries and they're going to make Britain rubbish. They're going to be stealing stuff and they're going to be causing crime and they're going to be over exhorting the NHS. When the reality is that if it wasn't for people coming from other countries, we wouldn't have an NHS. But there he is. He's got, in this point, this post, a breaking point, it says, behind him, with all these brown faces in a line. And on that very same day, the Labour MP, Jo Cox, was murdered. Mother of two. Killed by a guy screaming, Britain first. I wonder who he felt empowered by. I wonder what way he would have voted in the Brexit referendum had he not been in custody. Katrina in the chat saying Farage was a glorified scrap metal salesman. You're absolutely right. So I'll get into the chat in a moment. If you've got any ideas that you want to throw in here, please do. Yeah, so to go back to what we've been seeing in just the last week of Tory dysfunction, they have a huge problem. And this is the problem. There's no one left who wants to vote for the Conservatives. And what they do is instead of appealing to the middle ground, right? I think they just think they've lost that, or maybe that's just not as exciting for them because these people aren't very nice. So maybe they don't want nice people voting for them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they just want horrible little racists voting for them. But they are doing the job for Reform UK. Like, they are massively helping out Reform UK by making the national dialogue always about asylum seekers, always about migrants, always about the Bibi Stockholm, always about Rwanda and immigrants and people coming from other countries and Muslims and Jewish people and people who aren't quite the same as us. But look, we've got a Hindu as the Prime Minister, and look, we've got a Buddhist as the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. We've got this, we've got these people from different ethnic backgrounds. Yeah, but Rishi Sunak went to Winchester. James Cleverly went to private school. Suella Braverman went to private school. Kemi Badenoch went to private school. Do you see the link between the... So, yeah, you have these people in Parliament, in the Tory party, who have risen through the ranks because of where they went to school. You know, they face the same obstacles as people who are of ethnic minorities from other places around the UK where their parents couldn't necessarily afford to send them to a posh private school where they made all the connections they'll ever need to make. Things would have turned out differently for them. And to see Rishi Sunak back in 2020 talking about, how awful it was growing up in the 80s with people just being openly racist and how hurtful it was. And there's a really good interview. And he seems almost as, I know Rishi Sunak's not very good at pretending to be human. I don't want to say it that way, but emoting. You know what I mean? He just seems that he's not arsed about anything. It's like nothing ever flusters him because he just doesn't care. He's just too busy counting his money or whatever he does. But you can't. This interview, if you dig it out from 2020, he seems really sincere. And I could see, honestly, I believe he was. But then he's got into power and he's got all these bloody swivel-eyed racists who both are in the Tory party and also he's hoping will vote for the Tory party. And he becomes less than a prime minister, a leader. And he becomes something like the same thing happened with Priti Patel, the same thing happened with Suella Braverman, where they were enacting really horrible racist policies. But because they are of different ethnic origins, they could say, "Oh no, it's okay. I'm not being racist because how could I be racist? I'm people have been racist against me," and it's a powerful argument. And also, it makes people who are racist but don't want to be seen as racist because they want to say, "I'm not a racist, but," and that's it's a famous line. The new one is, "I'm not a transphobe, but." But let's go back to, "I'm not a racist, but." People would say, when I was growing up, they would come out with the most horrible racist things. And then they'll say, "But I like Frank Bruno." Ian Barnes, he's all right. Ian Barnes? No, John Barnes, sorry. I went to university with a guy called Ian Barnes. John Barnes, he's all right. He's one of them who's all right. And then they'll say something horrifically racist about everybody else. And what Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman and James Cleverly allow these racists who vote for the Conservatives to do is to go, "I'm not racist. I'm obviously not racist because I'm voting for someone who is an ethnic minority." And it gets them off the hook for their inherent racist beliefs. The Tories are stuck between a rock and a hard place now because they have absolutely 100% settled on the idea that they are going to go for the racist vote because that's all they got left. And it worked for Brexit. It worked for Boris Johnson. Let's see if it will work again. And I think everyone's just tired of it. And the people who would normally vote for the Tories because they're racist are now all going to reform. And I hope that reform run a MP, a candidate in every constituency in the country in the next election, just to split the Tory vote. Maybe then the Tories will come on board with the idea of proportional representation. How about that, eh? Tinkanator, thank you so much for the super chat there. "I hate prejudice, discrimination, and snobbishness of any kind. It always reflects on the person judging and not the person being judged. Everyone should be treated equally." Gordon Brown. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. You should judge people on their actions, not like who they are or where they were born or their accent or, or the colour of their skin or their religion. Things that, that really impact on their, what their moral choices are. And to try and dismiss an entire segment of society and say, "Oh, they're all like that," is disgraceful. Which is why we get a little bit of me and Phil were talking on this on the agenda the other week, when people say, "Oh, the Muslim vote," it's like there is no Muslim vote. What are you talking about? There's Muslims who vote, but they don't vote as a block. It's like every Muslim in the country gets together every weekend and goes, "Oh, who should we vote for? Oh, well, we are allowed to vote for whoever we're told to vote for." They vote for their own reasons, for their own political, and more people who are Muslim might vote Labour. They might do, but the people who are working class vote Labour. But it's not everyone who's working class. I've met quite a few working class Tories, and it's unfair and it's kind of discriminatory to say, "Oh, Labour lost the Muslim vote." I mean, you think, hang on, what? They never had the Muslim vote. It doesn't exist. It's like saying, oh, the Liverpool vote. There were people in Liverpool who vote for the Conservatives, who vote for the Lib Dems. and I can see why. It's two sides to this, isn't there? Because it's like the people going, "Oh, Labour lost the Muslim vote." It's also the people who, whenever you say anything about like boomers, no offense, I know a lot of people watching this are of that cohort. You've really got to be very careful. You've got to say, not all boomers. Obviously, not every boomer behaves like this or thinks like this. Because if they did, the world would be probably quite like it is now. But it's not all of them. That's the main thing. They don't vote as a group, but maybe there are some tendencies in that cohort to vote for right-wing stuff, which is to do with age and education and other factors. But and also wealth, how much money they've got. 1 in 5 pensioners are millionaires. 1 in 5 are living in poverty. Britain, 2024. Gary Arnold sent me a little song there. Thank you very much. He's singing, it's beginning to look a lot like a May election. Sorry, I won't sing again. Thank you very much, Gary, for the £2 super chat. If you give me £2, I won't sing again. Right, we'll nip into the chat here. I'm not racist because some of my best friends, blah blah blah. Yeah, I've talked to black people. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the super chat there. Super chat, thank you, Johnny Copperhead. It's tremendously generous. Thank you very much, Johnny. You've been absolute legend. For the super chats this week, this month. Thank you. Bad Bones. It's almost like people vote based on what impacts them, and if an entire demographic is marginalised, they'll vote in numbers for the party that sees to their needs. Yeah, you're right. But it's never a monolith. It's never that when they talk in America about the Latino vote or the black vote, it's not guaranteed. And obviously, there are black people in America who vote for the Republicans. I don't know why. There were women who vote for the Republicans. They're like, yeah, that's fine. My body's not my own. Just to go on to a different topic for a moment. The ruling in Oklahoma, and let me caveat what I'm going to say by saying it's horrible. It's abhorrent. It's The Handmaid's Tale. This is off-red territory. Gilead. However, right, so what's happened is, if you're not up to speed, in Oklahoma, because they regard embryos as human beings, if you destroy an embryo, you can now be charged with murder. Okay? So, as a result, this is just one step away from if a woman has a period, we're going to throw her in jail. Embryos, when couples undergo IVF treatment, the majority of the embryos are destroyed. Some of them die naturally because they just don't take, and others are destroyed. And once it's been successful, they don't store them forever. Now, I know this doesn't probably need to be said out loud, but I'm going to say it anyway. Embryos are not babies. I'll tell you why, because you're not allowed to freeze babies in the freezer. Yeah. Anyway, but what this Oklahoma ruling shows is that the stupidity, the idiocy of this argument that embryos are people, because they're not. They're embryos. And it's really weird, isn't it? That, well, not weird, unsurprising, depressingly unsurprising that you have a lot of people who are very, very willing to cause all kinds of trouble and heartbreak and death in order to achieve their goal of protecting the unborn child. but not so much into protecting the born child, the actual children who exist and are alive and possibly don't want to be shot dead in the high school massacres that happen every day in the United States. Anyway, peas are not vegetables because you can freeze them. Oh, Dr. Rapper banned. Very clever. Yeah, but no one's going to go to jail for murdering a pea. Or putting a pea in the freezer. And probably once you've frozen them, they're probably no good. But yeah, babies are not peas either. Peas are not babies. Different things, my friends. Different things. Right, I'm just going to bring up the papers because we're going to just have a quick alternative paper review, as A. Thompson calls it. I'll just steal that title from him because it's cool. Do that in a moment. Just get rid of all the adverts. Vistaprint. Go away, Vistaprint. Freckle Puny. Trump has used a similar no one's heard of these foreign languages argument that his running dog Farage did a few years ago when he said he felt uncomfortable hearing foreigners on the train. Yeah. And it was particularly, with Trump, his wife is a foreigner. Like, she's not from America. She's from Slovenia or somewhere. Like, her first language isn't English. And then you've got Farage, who at the time was married to a German woman and had kids who were bilingual. So they spoke German in the house that he was in. I don't think that Farage has a problem with speaking German. After all, that was the mother tongue of his greatest hero, Adolf Hitler. Sorry, I thought I made that really obvious in case it was a bit too subtle for anyone. What else we got? Always we're scratching the surface of a good Tory. Yeah, I think a good Tory. I'm going to write this down now because you're giving me a brain fart. Good Tory. No, I meant a good idea. It's like a nice bloke. That's what it's like. Good Tory equals nice bloke. I know I'm a nice bloke. I'm not one of those horrible people. I'm a nice bloke. Yeah. Graham, did you watch the Trump meeting the Spanish ultra-right leader of Vox Abascal wants to forbid gay pride march in Madrid? What a twant. David, no, I didn't actually see that, but it wouldn't surprise me because they're all Nazis together, all goose-stepping in March. In March? All goose-stepping in Union, I should say. Goose marching in step. That's the one. Thank you very much to Robin Moore, who says, what's the child benefit cap for frozen embryos? Well, there you go. There was a story about what was this? It was in America. Yes, it was in Texas, and it was a pregnant woman who used the lane on the highway or the freeway, whatever they call it, which is reserved for when you have two occupants in the car. You're not allowed to use it if you're just one person in the car. And she used it, and her defense was that her baby is a person. So this is the whole thing of like taking a stupid law to its illogical conclusion. And that's what's happened in Oklahoma now, where you've got, I feel really sorry for people who have been waiting months, maybe years, for IVF treatments, and maybe they're just days away from it, and now they can't have it because, yeah. Please don't be having a go at each other in the chat. Just try and keep it civil. I don't want people feeling left out or piled on. I will delete anything that I notice, because obviously I'm trying to present the show as well, so I can't read all your messages. I'm not that good. But yeah, please settle down. Not all religion, but a lot of it. Religion is there to tell, your religion exists to tell you what you can do. Your religion cannot tell me what I can do, because it's not my religion. End of. Always fun when comments are taken out of content. We were talking about Baroness Warsi on LBC. Baroness Warsi's, she was asked straight up by Gemma Forte why she remained in the Tory party. Like, was it, or was it Marina? Can't remember. One of them. One of the troll twins. She asked Baroness Warsi, why do you stay in the Tory party? And she's like, well, I don't want to just leave it to the lunatics. But I think that ship has sailed. Baroness, I think that ship has sailed. Handmaid's Tale slowly becoming a reality in the US, says Copperbird. Absolutely. They cared so much for those people, they would have voted for Labour's amendment, and that would be it without having a strop. We talked about the SNP last week. Look, I'm sorry, but I really, and I said this last week, and I'll just keep saying it, I'm not massively anti-SNP. I don't have a secret agenda to take them down. I am quite comfortable with the idea of Scotland having another referendum and possibly leaving the United Kingdom because of what we did, what the English did to them by dragging them out of the EU against their will. I completely get that. At the same time, the SNP did not have to put that poison pill into its bill where it said, into its motion, where it said accused Israel of war crimes, accused Israel of collective punishment. They sat down, they had a discussion, they decided the wording of the bill, and they went, we need something that calls for a ceasefire, right? But that the front bench of Labour won't be able to whip their MPs to vote for it. They did that on purpose. And if you don't believe they did that on purpose, fine, whatever. But, you know, I'm not going to argue with you. But I don't think they did it by accident. They're like, oh, God, we put those words in that Labour front bench couldn't go for, but the rest of the party would want to vote for it because they really, really wanted a ceasefire. And last time we pulled this trick, over 50 Labour MPs actually voted against the whip, and 50 and many front bench Labour shadow ministers they had to step down from their roles as a result. If the number one thing was calling for the ceasefire, they wouldn't have put those words in. The number one thing for the SNP was to split Labour, which I completely understand in a political point of view. You know, it's an election year. The SNP are not doing so well at the moment. I get it. I get why they did it. But come on. Of all the things to do it over, an active war zone where over 30,000 people have now died, the majority of them women and children, it's not the place. It's not the place to play your political games. So no, I'm people are saying, oh, no one came out of last week looking good. I'm sorry. I think that some looked worse than others. And if you honestly believe the SNP are beyond reproach in this matter, then that's, to me, that's the footballification thing. You know, if Labour did the same thing to the Greens or the Lib Dems or to the SNP, I'll be calling Labour out. I would. You know I would. Teabag split open. Oh! Wish it would stop doing that. Okay, thank you very much to Johnny Copperhead for the £10 super chat. Anyone see Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville saying that effectively stopping IVF was good thing because people needed to have more babies? And he's not even the dumbest in the US Senate. Yes, Johnny. Oh my God. I didn't actually see that, but I can quite imagine. Yeah, we need to stop this IVF because we need more kids. Indeed. SNPs need to have a rethink. Vincent saying SNP's taken a nosedive since Sturgeon got booted. Yeah, I think that the SNP have become a little bit unfocused. And it's not just that as well. It's the fact that they really pushed for another referendum that got overruled by the Tories, and they're kind of a little bit, there was a direction of travel, and now they've become a little bit directionless. And when Ian Blackford used to stand up in Parliament, he often talked about how good Scotland was doing and how much better it was than the rest of Britain. And he made good points, and he also bigged up Scotland. I haven't seen that so much for Stephen Flynn. And I do like Stephen Flynn. I think he's a good little brawler. I like it when he gives Sunak both barrels. He asks good questions, generally. But at the same time, they've got in the back of their heads that the Tories don't really present much of a threat to them in Scotland. But Labour do. So let's try and split Labour. Let's have a go at Labour as well. Right, okay, quickly, because it is 1 minute past 10. I'm going to just go over to the papers. And then I love that second delay before it comes up. We've got class war in the Mirror exclusive. Crisis in schools, shocking rise in pupil suspensions, teachers scared to even go to work. Tory cuts add to behaviour meltdown. This is true because one of the things that the Tories have cut funding for is education in general, but also mental health services for younger people. So there's like one educational psychologist who will cover a huge number of schools and a huge number of pupils in those schools. Because the government has cut everything to the bone, this is what happens. It's like when the government make loads of people poorer than they've ever been, crime goes up. How does that happen? Is there some kind of link between poverty and crime? Like people go, I need this stuff. I'm going to get it anyway. So I can either work and have enough money to buy it, or I'll just take it because I need it. Over here, we have Red Wall Revolt over Anderson's sacking, which is apparently this WhatsApp group of people going, Anderson shouldn't have been sacked. And yes, he should have been, because he's a creep. And this is the lady who played Princess Diana, and she's won a SAG Actors Guild award. Right. Cleverly warns of AI fakes to threat to election. Do you know what the biggest threat to democracy is in this country? The Tories. It's the Tories. It's the Tories. Generation Sick Note. This is a classic Daily Mail headline. Sickening headline here from the Daily Mail for the old codgers who read the Daily Mail, the old racist codgers sitting there going, young people these days, young people increasingly blame mental health for being out of work. Yeah, they didn't have mental health issues. Do you know why boomers didn't have mental health issues? Not all boomers. Because unless they were part of a minority, their life was pretty sweet. They bought a house for £2.50 in 1963, and now it's worth £500,000. Hurrah! Look at them. They're the Wolf of Wall Street. But yes, so there you go. Generation Sickness. We're all on the sick. There is a link, though, here with the Tory austerity, the Tory cuts, the fact that it takes 3 years to get a diagnosis for autism for a child. The fact that it takes years to get an ADHD diagnosis. The fact that mental health isn't set in stone. Like, you could have a particular mental health problem, and then 2 years later, it could be a slightly different mental health problem. Because your brain's constantly changing. Yeah. So by the time you've got your diagnosis, you might not have that anymore. Or there might be more symptoms that you didn't have before, which, another type of mental illness that you are suffering from that you need help with. But fuck did the government are going to give you any help with that? So people go off work and they wait for ages for a diagnosis from the GP and mental health services, which probably never comes because it's hard enough to see a GP these days. Never mind actually get some proper counselling. I've got friends who have gone through some really, really rough stuff, would love to have some counselling, but simply can't afford it because unless you're money bags, it ain't going to happen for you, especially on the NHS. Sunak urged to speak out as Islamophobia row deepens. So he did speak out this morning and he basically didn't condemn what Lee Anderson said. He just said he should have apologised and he didn't. This is the Daily Express here. Oliver Dowden's been doing the rounds as well, making a tit of himself and tying himself in knots, trying to defend what Lee Anderson said last week, with also saying, but, he was wrong the way he said it. I don't have a problem with what he said. It was just his delivery was all wrong. Yeah, he shouldn't have put his finger under his nose and done a Hitler salute. Damning claims of 250,000 extra migrants a year under Labour. Labour will be worse. Okay, Express, whatever. Where this is the... I hate it when they do this. They say, the rainiest February in 258 years. No, it's not. That implies that 259 years ago, we had a wetter February. We didn't. That's when records began. So it should just say, the rainiest February that we know of. Climate change. Yes. Hope you don't live in a floodplain. Tory potty. The Tory potty is in the gutter over racism, warns Baroness Warzy there on the front cover of the I newspaper. She's not wrong. And then this awful story about Kate McCann, who's a TV presenter, and she had a drink spiked. Which is an epidemic going around the country, but because we have defunded the police force, because we've defunded the justice system, because we defunded prisons, and hospitals, and schools, mental health, everything. Everything's been defunded. Everything's been cut to the bone by the Tories because they need money for themselves and their mates to buy a yacht. Buy an effing yacht. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to head off now. So thank you very much for joining me this morning. Phil will be back tomorrow at 9:30 for another morning brew. And I'm going to try and be on tonight. So look out for it. I'll put an advert if we are going out tonight. But I've got a busy week. So if I can't do a show tonight, then it's not going to happen. But otherwise, I should be back live and uninterrupted later in the week. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the amazing comments and the amazing super chats. And until next time, I'll say give us a like on the way out, because that's always good. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And let your mates know. Say, oh, we listen to these guys in the morning talking politics, and it's all right. It's not awful. give us one thumbs up. Give us a half thumb. No, give us a thumbs up. Until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.